Wayne Withers has joined us, arm wrestler. Good morning, Wayne. How are you, sir?
Doing good. How about yourself?
Good. Good to have you in the big chair, and I'm excited about talking to you and getting away from politics this last segment of the Friday show for a while here. But we were talking about 6'6". I think that's about where you are, aren't you?
Yeah, 6'6", about 325, 330.
325.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Mama's biscuits. How many of those have you put down?
It's probably more the peas and cornbread that done it.
It will do it. Look, time will fly by here, but I do want to get into this. You kind of got juiced and your inspiration from the movie Over the Top, Stallone and everything else. Just a real quick overview of how you got into arm wrestling.
Yeah, just growing up as a small child, mostly hanging out with my mom. My dad was a logger, put wood hauler, diesel mechanic, real strong guy, and I would always hear stories about him going out on the weekend shooting pool with his buddies and, arm wrestling. And
where would he do that, Wayne? I mean, was some juke joint or where?
Just little country stores around. We have one about 3 miles from the house where we would hang out on the weekends and shoot pool and stuff, and they would arm wrestle, and I always hear stories about nobody could beat my dad, and didn't see him a lot. He was always busy. He owned the logging operation, and when I was about 13, he brought me the movie Over the Top in the bedroom and said, "Here, put this in the player." Said, "You'll probably like this." And I don't know if it was a way to connect with my dad or just that I loved arm wrestling. I fell in love with the movie, but I just thought it was just a movie. I didn't know it was an actual tournament in Vegas in 1987.
Yeah. Did you look at your dad a little bit differently after you saw the movie and you realized that arm wrestling was a thing?
Oh, yeah. I started pulling against my dad. We started arm wrestling almost every night. And I started working alongside him in the summertime in the woods, running chainsaws, 14.
How big were you then?
I was about 6'5", but I was a lot smaller frame. I was around 180, 200 pounds. I had a couple of little short putwood trucks, and I would load putwood by hand and stuff. And
you don't need a gym when you've got that, do you?
No. Back then, there were still a few of those little short putwood mills open, but they've all closed down now.
Yeah.
But I did a good bit of that.
I was watching a documentary, and it seems like it plays out every single time, whether it's Tiger Woods or Michael Jordan. When the fathers realize their son has that talent, they never let him win. They make him work for it. Was that the way with your dad?
It was up to about, I don't know, I was probably around 16 years old. And we had a challenge match one day in the living room, and I beat him. And the next day he was telling his brother, he said, he can beat you too. And they was all laughing it off, but I did. I beat his brother, and we couldn't find really nobody in the community to arm wrestle with me. It just as a small child, 16 years old.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Pretty much a dominant force around the county for a long time.
Was it an organized, just mostly like going to a country store and you play dominoes? This was just one of the activities there, huh?
Oh, yeah, just small town activities. In my early 20s, I would always have that little voice in my head saying, "You're going to be real good at this one day," but I thought being real good at it was, being the best arm wrestler at the barbecue or something. I had no idea it would turn into what's happened.
It's really in a trade called pullers, is it not? I mean, you did not so much arm wrestling, but pullers. And
right.
How did that go from a kitchen table activity to actually touring and doing this?
Yeah, well, they had a show about it yesterday on the Today Show on WBT that it was the fastest growing sport in the world right now, one of the fastest growing sports.
Really?
So yeah, it's picking up steam really fast. And
I remember watching it many years ago on ESPN. One of the things on ESPN.
Oh yeah. We have ESPN. That's through the World Arm Wrestling League. I'm also a signed athlete with them. They're down right now because of COVID, but I was supposed to have my debut match at WL 601 in Chicago. Mm-hmm. And about 2 weeks before the series started, it got shut down because of COVID.
Has it been put back on?
Not yet. No, we're still waiting.
Mm-hmm. Do they have normally sponsors? You get up and you have a sponsor like any other athlete?
Oh, yeah. We have sponsors to help us out, especially with the big tournaments. Now, I have just private sponsors that help me get around the country here and there,
Mm-hmm. Does every state have competition? Wayne?
Almost everyone except Mississippi for the longest time. I got everything started here. Now we have about 4 major tournaments a year, from a state tournament to regionals.
Wow.
we have some big turn. We're going to have the Mississippi State Championships at Brewski's in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, September the 10th.
How about? Well, you got to remind me and either text or just let us know so we can remind folks to do this. Is it going to be a one-day competition or weekend competition?
It'll be a one-day competition that Saturday for the state tournament. Now the national.
What are we talking about prize money on this?
On the state championship, it's just a state title, unless they're giving money payout. Or sometimes they are. I can't remember what they're doing this year.
How do you train for this, Wayne? I mean, do you train for it or in the weight room or what? How do you do this?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I train usually between 1 to 2 hours, 5 to 6 days a week. Mainly focusing on my hand and wrist, back pressure. I don't bench press because arm wrestling we don't push, we pull. So like you said earlier, pullers. So everything is back pressure machines. A lot of wrist curls, a lot of forearm exercises.
You tell the story that about this guy and that you met when you were getting a bit disillusioned after you lost a couple of matches, and the old guy with a lot of wisdom came up and said, "You're doing it wrong," and that kind of changed your life. But for the folks who haven't heard this, kind of relate that story to us.
Oh, sure. When I was 28 years old, I had been driving log trucks, contract trucking, and you couldn't sell a load of logs anywhere. And a friend of mine in town owned a gas station, and I asked him, could I get a job pumping gas? I mean, I just had to park my truck. And he said, sure, and I pumped gas for him a few weeks and went by to pick up my check one day at his gym. He was also a gym owner, and they was going to do an arm wrestling competition, had a big flyer up on the wall. And I said, well, that's right up my alley. So I went over there and I beat all these guys at the gym, and I said, well, if they're doing it here, they got to be doing it in other places. So that's when I looked on the internet, and then I realized that just about every state had a couple of arm wrestling competitions a year. So they had the nationals coming up in Arkansas, and I went and got killed, just got destroyed. This rocked on for 5 years. I could win the amateur competitions, but I couldn't win the pro. I never won a pro match for 5 years. And this is coming from the kid that could beat any grown man in the county at 15 years old. So, after 5 years, I went to Alabama State Championships, which back then was probably the Super Bowl of arm wrestling, and took second place in the amateurs. And it kind of felt like, going to college for 5 years to get your master's degree, and then they telling you, get out the building, better today than you was when you started college 5 years ago. That's what I was looking at. But as I was walking out, an older referee was at a table in intermission that had refereed the amateurs but was going to compete in a pro tournament. And I told him my story because he actually stopped me and asked me where I was headed. And I told him, well, I'm going home. I'm through with arm wrestling. And he told me, that he had went to 36 amateur tournaments and never won a single amateur match. And now he said, I've been second in the world 3 times. Don't never give up. So I didn't know this guy from Adams Cat. So I decided to hang around and watch a pro competition, and he destroyed everybody there. And I said, well, hey, if that guy can do it, why can't I? Yeah. And a couple of weeks later, I went to probably my first ever practice in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and there was a national champion there in his 50s, and pulled me to the side and said, let me work with you and show you what you're doing wrong. So he showed me how these professionals was taking my long arm and using it against me, and showed me the right way to combat that, the right way to attack. And I started winning tournaments, started winning pro competitions pretty much everywhere I went. Just that big of a turnaround.
What we see in the grip when it's a quick match, I mean, it doesn't last that long, but just the overview, there's so much more to the technique when you start looking at the grip, the timing, how do you sum up the competition, all of this. And I got to ask you that when we come back. Quick break here. We get back to Wayne Withers, arm wrestler who will take on Perez in a few moments, and that's going to be Perez has just decided not to do it. Back with Wayne coming up next. We're talking with Wayne Withers, who is arm wrestling pro. And one note here on a lot of notes, but let me give you one from the C-Spire text line. Tell Wayne that Jason Ballard is listening. Fine fella and a great promoter of the sport, and he's the strongest person I know, along with my dad, who was a state arm wrestling champ for 5 years back in the 70s and 80s, so we did that. Wayne, when we left, we were talking about there's so much more to this than just grabbing somebody's hand There's the technique. There's the grip. There's how you hold it. There's the size of the competitor. Go into that a little bit.
Oh, yeah, there's a few different moves we have. I'm a top roller, and there's also a hooker where you just hook your arm in and pull them sideways, which is what just about any kid would do at a lunchroom table or any adult would do at a barroom competition or something. It's top rolling is more for a long arm guy like myself. It's kind of taking his hand and wrist and dumping it, turning it to the left, and pulling him with a little back pressure. And then there's also a shoulder press where you just kind of get him behind your shoulder and press him down. And as far as weight competitions, we have anywhere from 0 to 154 pounds, and all the way up to my class, which is 243 and above, the super heavyweights, and 220, 242. And like say, if you're a real strong guy and you're 200 pounds, you can pull multiple weight classes. You just can't be the big guy like me and go down in weight classes, obviously.
How many tournaments have you won?
Oh, I have won somewhere between 40 to 50 state titles from around the United States. Some of them are multiple, like the same place that I took all the butt whoopings in Alabama years ago. Right now, I believe I'm the 4-time overall state champion there. I have WAL titles from Pennsylvania, King of the Table, multiple national champion, and headed to the Worlds in France, in Paris, France, in September the 26th through October the 2nd.
How about that?
Winning the Nationals, International Federation of Arm Wrestling. I won the Nationals about 3 weeks ago in Dallas, and I had probably 20 super heavyweights in my class from around the United States. Yes, sir.
Congratulations. Have you ever snapped anybody's arm where it broke or seen that during a competition?
Out of all the competitions I've been to, I might have seen maybe 10 breaks.
Kidding.
Yeah, the last break was in Chattanooga, Tennessee back in March. They was giving pretty good money for that tournament, so I rode out to Chattanooga, and a young lady in her weight class broke her arm.
Can you hear it snap?
Sounds like a 22 going off.
Thank you for bringing this up, okay?
Man, that just hurts just even thinking about it. But I got to ask you this, though. Is there fatigue in here, too, where how many matches are you allowed to have during that competition if you haven't been eliminated? Do you go through like 2, 3, or 4? Or how many is there a set amount?
Yeah, it's better to be on the A side of competition, which is what I done in Dallas, meaning I never lost a match. Double elimination. So if you get on the B side, you take a loss, you have to pull more. So, for instance, there was probably 20 people in my weight class in Dallas, and I think I was on the table like 5 matches. So if I would have lost, I would have been around 7, 8 matches.
Oh, geez. That is a lot. The average time is what, maybe within 15, 20 seconds or 30 seconds? What's the longest that you've been in?
I had a pretty long match in Arizona. I had a pay-per-view match with Don Underwood from Kansas City. He's a multiple-time world champion. We had a pay-per-view match in April the 22nd. It was me and him and 4 or 5 other real gun arm wrestlers on pay-per-view. And his first match gassed me out completely and gassed him out. We got in a pretty long war. And after that, he was completely done, and I was out of breath. We had a minute and a half between matches, and it was too long.
No, how long did that go on?
Well, it was 3 out of 5, best 3 out of 5. So the first match probably lasted a little over a minute.
That's an eternity.
It seems like an eternity.
Yes.
Second match, he was completely out of gas, and I went right through him. Third match, I went right through him. So I thought I was out of gas, but he was unbelievably out of gas. He was in his corner, bent over, saying he needed his inhaler. He had forgot his inhaler, and he couldn't breathe. So,
what do you do prior to a match? You down a Red Bull, or is there anything that you normally do before a match?
Normally just kind of warm up a little bit. Maybe even though we don't do push-ups in arm wrestling or bench pressing, I might do push-ups. Is the easiest exercise I can do with no weights around. I can just get over in the corner and do 10 to 15 push-ups just to kind of get my blood warmed up in my arms and everything, so I don't have to worry about tearing nothing. But no, not too big into Red Bulls and stuff. Matter of fact, getting ready for these Worlds, I'll cut out all caffeine altogether and just decaffeinated green tea and water for the next few months.
Is there such thing as a coach that you guys could go to, or?
As a matter of fact, this Sunday, that anybody that is interested in the sport, in Utica, the old country store in Utica. We're going to have a big practice there.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know,
is that right?
Sunday at 1 p.m.
And men and women?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because there is a women's league, too, is it not? Women?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like I say, that young lady in Tennessee that broke her arm, that was in the women's competition. And she handled
this is the professional league, yeah.
Yeah, she handled it like a champ. She picked her arm up and walked outside and waited for the ambulance, and you'd never knew she broke her arm. And a lot of the guys I see break it almost faint.
I don't know what that noise is there. I'm not sure if that's me as far as the noise I hear in the background, but how many tournament? It's me. Okay, yeah. I'll double check and see what's going on here. The next competition, we're talking about that. Where's the next competition?
In Paris for the Worlds. I'm not planning on doing anything before that. Tennessee State Championships is August the 6th. I may go. Of course, Mississippi State is September the 10th, but I have something going on at work that day, so I'm going to have to miss that tournament.
You have done unbelievable. What is your ranking now? What is it? What's the ranking that's, as far as the state champ or regional, or where are you now?
Yeah, I've been ranked number 1 in Mississippi for a good while, and I'm ranked number 1 in the SEC, all the southern states.
How about that?
If you like football, it's the same as the college football rankings.
Wayne, how many? And we're talking with Wayne Withers, who's the professional arm wrestler. Wayne, how many competitors do we have at your level of going professional and making the tour in the state of Mississippi?
At my level, I got a few that's ranked behind me in the supers. Number 2 is B.J. Fakakis from Hattiesburg, and he can sign up for just about any state tournament in the United States and be favored to win.
He's a big boy? How big a boy is he?
He outweighs me by about 30 pounds. So, yeah.
Is that right?
And he used to travel the country with me. You know, he used to go everywhere with me, and he said that he was pretty much just driving me around so I could win. And he kind of went out on his own now, but he's doing real good.
How about that? Mm-hmm. Before you have a match, you know who your competitors are?
You could look it up. I mean, I can pinpoint out, like when I was at the Nationals, I could see that several guys was in my weight class. Now, some of them I actually walk over to the counter and ask, you know, the lady or the guy running the tournament, say, who am I up against first? They want to know. I guess I just like surprises. I come on with it. Whoever's coming, let's go.
I got it. So you don't have a chance to, like 2 or 3 days before, just to see if you can find them on YouTube and kind of watch them a little bit.
Oh, yeah. You know, like when I was going to the Nationals a few weeks ago, I posted it online that I was coming. So a lot of the guys...
You know they're watching you.
Oh, yeah. So that's just putting intimidation, and that's intimidating them. You know, one of the guys from Oklahoma that's a real good puller, he said when he saw that I was coming, he said, well, that's second place for me. So if I can do something to kind of mess up the game for them, I'm all for it, you know. So,
anybody do trash talk, or is that allowed?
Oh, yeah, especially for these pay-per-view events. You know, that's what Don Underwood told me before mine and his match out in Arizona. He said, you know, I love you, brother, but let's get loud up there. You know, let's give them a show, you know.
And you talk about the competition in Paris, France. That is absolutely incredible. But is there a monetary value there? Because that's costly.
Oh, yeah. Well, like I say, I've been doing mostly just prize fighting style pay-per-view arm wrestling tournaments the last couple of years, and, you know, signing with the World Arm Wrestling League. So the Nationals wasn't really something that was just in my sights or the Worlds, because I had beaten multiple-time world champions. But I won the Nationals a couple of years ago in Atlanta, but it was just United States Nationals. IFA goes worldwide, and the reason what attracted me to the Nationals in Dallas was they was offering a $1,000 sponsorship for the first place winners going to France for the Worlds. So I said, you know, that's my plane ticket right there.
So real quick, it's almost out of time here, but give us a little bit of a trick. You know, I know you've learned some tricks. Give us a little trick of the trade.
Oh, man, that might be costly right there.
I kind of figured that's what you were going to say. Wayne, congratulations, sir, and thank you for representing the state of Mississippi as a class act. We appreciate that, sir.
Thank you guys for the time. I appreciate it.
You got it. We will be following you, and anytime you need some airtime for a little promotion, Judge Perez will give you my text number, and let me know. We'll give you a shout-out.
All right, sir. You have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Safe trip, my man. Appreciate it very much. Wayne Withers, arm wrestling pro, numero